unlike anything I had experienced before when it came to a movie.
Unlikely individuals that come together in this terrible circumstance.
The main story were the characters, what they had to go through while they were in the woods.
We got to set and didn't know what was going to happen on that set.
For the most part, things never went according to plan.
And there were so many days where it was frustrating.
I didn't know what the hell I was getting myself into. I thought I was going to die.
We were miserable some nights.
Felt like I was in over my head a lot.
When things get hard, you have to keep going. You have to keep fighting, and you need to finish what you started.
I'm gonna call group, I made a mistake and I called group A. I was supposed to call group B, but it still worked out okay. If I do that again, just work with it. But I'll call group B. You have one job. You have one job. You have one job.
So Within the Woods of Undead County is about a group of 4 individuals who have to escape into the woods. A pharmaceutical company releases a drug that turns everybody into zombies.
Long before we were able to create our medication, which is called Zoltrox. Once released, the drug goes straight for the virus, latches onto it, and destroys it.
For me, the main story were the characters, what they had to go through while they were in the woods, what kinds of things they would say to each other. I think that that's where I had the most fun exploring the story and the concept.
You kind of see how their relationships grow, but also drift apart in times of tragedy.
You know, it's about survival and really finding out who you really are.
The first horror movie I ever remember seeing growing up was Night of the Living Dead. Just the entirety of that movie made me want to do makeup and write and be involved in the world of visual entertainment somehow.
There's nothing like a fire extinguisher filled with 2.5 gallons of stage blood.
Liked to write growing up, and I never attempted to write a screenplay, so I felt that I had a story to tell from my imagination, and it just all kind of came out.
We can get rid of the body.
I'm a huge fan of the old school Resident Evil games, and at the time when I first started kind of getting an interest in filmmaking, I had really wanted to make a zombie film.
I knew he worked on with film and stuff like that, so I poked at Nick about, you know, look at this script, you know, let's make this a movie.
He had sent me the script, and it was about 15 or 19 pages, and I read it, and I didn't like it initially.
It was a rather large script. There were things that we would never be able to do on a micro budget, effects-wise and set-wise.
It was like 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep, and I sort of opened up the script and started rereading it, and then I just started adding in dialogue and changing a little bit here and there, still maintaining the story, still maintaining the characters. I sent it back to him, convinced he was gonna hate it. And he said, I love it, let's make it. Shooting was originally only supposed to last about 3 months. And when we decided to make it a feature, we expanded starting the summer of 2012, and then went over to the summer of 2013. Overall, I would say it probably took about 2 summers. We were shooting basically every weekend throughout the summer of 2012 and 2013. And once the weather started to change, we had to stop because of continuity, because the leaves were changing.
Like down here, and then he can come like down like this, and then we have a shot pointing up at him while he's pointing the gun.
So I pretty much knew everybody before we started production.
I was originally brought on to do audio, and then through various activities and days on set, I became producer.
As I'm screaming, and he just like elbows me in the face.
Pretty much every actor who was cast in the role had backed out like 2 weeks before we were supposed to start shooting. It was such a strange and nerve-wracking moment when we found that out. So I ended up asking a couple of my friends who I had asked to be on the movie if they wanted to act.
Started off a little slow, unfortunately, but after a slight detour because of the rain, we got going, and we're getting a lot of extra shots, and I'm going to be used up here pretty soon. So it's productive, it's going well.
Director Nick and I actually were in an acting and directing class together, and he mentioned that he had the script that he wanted to shoot, and I told him I was interested in helping. So I was actually supposed to be the assistant director on the film.
She was never intended to be the lead role, but she's the only person I knew at the time who I thought could really handle being the actor.
But as the film went on, we lost one of our lead actors that had signed on to play my character in the movie, and so he said to me, well, actually, I would really like you to take this part in the film. So Jocelyn she's the main character, so we see her from the get-go. You see her in the middle of the crisis, and she's living with her sister, and you kind of get this vibe that, you know, she wakes up late, maybe she doesn't have a lot going on for her.
Jocelyn, I can't calm down. I was almost attacked in the streets.
Well, what do you want to do?
As you carry on through the story, it's kind of revealed that she didn't really have a great relationship with her family, and her sister was the only person she really had. So when she lost her, she already felt like she lost everything. Someone who saw the worst side of it and has already experienced loss go through this apocalypse situation, because she already knows what it's like to lose someone. So she is then, you know, fighting to survive, but for what cost? And you see how that wears on her as a character.
Corey was originally just supposed to do some graphic design work.
You know, I think I saw a post that he was doing a movie or something like that. And I said, let me know if you need any poster work done.
But when I read the script, I kept seeing his face, and I was like, I think this guy's right for this role. So I messaged him asking him if he wanted to be in it.
And he said, actually, the guy who he originally had for a particular part can no longer do it. And I need someone a little taller, a little bigger built. And he said, I think you'd be perfect for it. I'm like, oh, all right, sure, I'll give it a shot. And the rest is history.
I'm sorry I brought us the fuck up here. My bad that we had to leave town early before we got chewed and chomped on like dog food.
My character, he's the jackass of the cast. He's the guy that no one wants to like, but he puts on a good show like he knows what's going on when he doesn't know a thing.
Fine. When you both turn into one of those things, I have no problem coming down there and put you both out of your misery.
He's just going through it, and because he's just miserable, he just has this attitude about him that makes it feel like he knows what he's doing and almost fools himself. But yeah, no, I would not be friends with said person in real life.
Oh, look at that. Now we're all saved.
Originally, I was brought into it to do hair and some makeup, but they were looking for somebody to play Kelly, and I know the girl originally didn't show up, so I happened to be there.
I asked her, and she was really hesitant and didn't want to do it, but with enough coaxing, I got her to do it.
And I never acted before, but I figured it's like a once-in-a-lifetime chance, so I ended up being Kelly.
I know I'm gonna die.
Don't say that.
Well, Kelly comes from, I like to think, like some kind of troubled past. I think I kind of just showed up as Kelly, being like really not able to handle a lot of things by herself, and like kind of prissy with an attitude. You know, was forced up in the woods by her ex, kind of just like following him around and hoping that like some kind of miracle happens. But I think like deep down she knows that this is probably like the last of her days, and she's miserable.
Who the hell even knows if anybody's still alive? We basically skipped out on civilization the day everything went down. Unless we had a different radio station to listen to, then we at least know what's going on.
Mike was the only person who I originally asked to act.
I told him that I had done movies like at a college level, like nothing professional or anything like that.
He was the only one where I remember seeing him at work, and we were talking about the movie, and I said, have you ever thought of acting?
He said, you just seem perfect for this character that I have in this movie.
And he was open to the idea. I let him read the script, and he said, all right, let's do it.
My character was a student of medicine who somehow got paired with Kelly and Matt, and we ended up just sticking together until we came upon Gabrielle Harry's character, and then we decided to flee into the woods.
Jocelyn! Action!
So the movie never intended to be a feature film. We never had any desire to tell a to make a feature-length film.
We had settled on we were going to do a short, and then just more and more people got involved, and we ended up just saying let's do it as a feature.
While we were making it, we got a lot of attention from people in the area who were just like, what is this? Like, what are you guys doing? This looks like really cool. Can we see it? Can we be a part of it? And we were basically in the middle of shooting it, where we kind of came to the realization, it's like, guys, we're probably gonna have to make this into a feature. We realized that so many people were super excited about what we were doing. We sort of felt a personal obligation to give them something that they were really gonna enjoy, and it just made sense to turn it into a feature. Once we kind of started to see how many people were super interested in the movie, it kind of took a life of its own from there and became a lot bigger than we anticipated. And I think there was a really serious period of time where me and everybody else were like, what did we get ourselves into?
Pour in!
There was a lot of times where things didn't go according to plan. I think for the most part, things never went according to plan every day we were shooting.
We were miserable some nights. I mean, we were sleeping underneath cars, in cars.
As the story progressed throughout filming, it was the whole process was very organic, and that's the nicest way to say it.
Because you have all these people coming together with this cast and crew that don't really know each other, and you're in this situation where everyone's working because of their passion, not being paid. There's a different kind of drive.
There's days where we got to set and didn't know what was going to happen on that set. We didn't know how long a scene was going to take. We didn't know if the scene that we said we were going to get was going to happen that day or was going to happen the next day.
A lot of times we weren't on the same page, and that gets really frustrating because when you put so much time and effort and heart and blood, sweat and tears into something, and then you don't feel like you're on the same page, it gets so complicated.
And there were so many days where it was frustrating. There wasn't too much prep work. The script constantly changing.
Felt like I was in over my head a lot because I know the other 3 cast members all had been involved with something to do with films or acting.
The major challenge was, one, finding a budget, maintaining that budget, and then being able to segregate what was most important for and use of it.
They don't want to be in the woods, we don't want to be in the woods, but we're doing it, and they're doing it, so it's like...
That's some MTV shit.
Shooting entirely outdoors was not fun. It was not fun at all. It was really hot, or it was really rainy and muggy.
Imagine being on top of a mountain in the woods and having to walk your equipment up and down from locations because you were dumb and decided to pick locations on top of a hill.
We constantly were battling rain and sun and sunburn.
The biggest thing was probably the heat. There was a lot of times where it was just really hot out. But I don't think there's any way we could have been able to replicate any of that inside of a studio, not only because we didn't have any money, but also because it wouldn't have felt as authentic. I bumped heads mostly with Josh and Gabby and Justin. And I think the reason why was because I kind of had a real straight idea of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. The two of them being storytellers and leaders, they also had visions of what they wanted to do.
I mean, we had it out. You're going to have it. But with that, we pushed each other so hard that at the end of the day, I think it all worked out very well.
It was a challenge to work with the director for a lot of it, honestly. I was supposed to be more behind the scenes. I was supposed to be more hands-on, so it was really hard for me to let go of that.
Action! Struggle. Struggle. Keep struggling. Keep struggling and fly back.
Justin and I, for the most part, we worked really well together, but it was really hard for him to be able to let go of some of the story because ultimately he wrote the story and I had to direct it the only way that I know how.
I'm very stubborn and I'm driven when it comes to certain things, especially if I have a vision of how I see something in my head.
Trying to tell his story through my imagination was a challenge, I think more for him than it was for me, because there were a lot of things that he really didn't want to let go. But that's why I was really careful to try to maintain the story and the characters that he originally visioned.
And Nick said to me in the beginning, he said, you know what, don't worry, it's your baby and I'll take care of it. And I was always worried about that, but in the end, he did deliver, he did take care of it.
Those of you guys who are not fans of the fan page, go to like the fan page, tell your friends, you'll get all these.
It's hard to pick one particular day that was the hardest for us, but in honesty, I think it had to have been the ending.
We'll make sure that we can let everyone know how to get their copies. Do you have contract?
We put an ad out on our Facebook page that said, you know, if anyone wants to come be an extra in our movie, we could use some zombie extras. And we were expecting maybe 30 some people. We ended up getting over 100 people coming out.
I remember showing up that day and Nick being like, you have 100 and some people showing up in an hour to do makeup.
We were not expecting so many people to show up, and it was a lot of cars to park. It was a lot of people to keep an eye on, make sure everyone was okay. It was definitely a challenge, but when we finally started to look at the shots of the ending, we kind of were like, all right, that was worth it, because we got some really cool shots towards the end where we had a field full of zombies, and that was a lot more than what we were hoping for.
Today it was raining and pouring, and most people would have gave up and went home. But this is what we love to do. This is our dream, and not many people can say they filmed, a full-length movie in the rain, and we did.
Every day I come on set, it's like a new adventure and a new experience and a new day of a dream coming true, because we all are so in love with what we do, and we're all so in love with this movie that seeing it come to life is just, it's kind of mind-boggling.
Ask me how I'm doing today.
How are you doing today?
It's Shark Week.
The performance that those four put on made me speechless. And that's exactly how it was working with them.
This cast has been one of the most fun groups of people I've ever met.
We would get there and do the best of our ability, and we would get the job done.
I mean, Mike Motel is constantly making jokes, and Corey Handelong, at the peak of the frustrations, he just always knew the right thing to say.
Gabby, her and I hit it off basically right off the bat. I didn't even have a chance to have any type of negative thought about her.
Seeing their dedication and the light they brought into this film, it made us family.
I have something better. What do you have? It's right there. Yeah, you got those.
I pretty much worked on every aspect of this movie from the very beginning to the very end. And that was one of the primary reasons why it took so long to finish. While we were shooting, I kept trying to reach out to other people who would help me edit it. During post-production, a lot of these people who were helping ended up not having time, or they ended up just never got back to us.
To have all of us in a room, especially Nick and Justin, and agree on one thing, it's not going to happen.
I kind of stopped for a little while and thought to myself, Undead County is dead.
6 years is a long time. It's not something to give up. Not something that we can perfect or say it's perfected.
There was this tiny little, I don't know if it was a voice or something in my head that was saying, you need to finish this. Like, there are a lot of people out there who are counting on you, who need to see this finished. I did everything I could with what I had to finalize it and to get a product that was complete.
So the first time we premiered the movie was at the Angela Theater, but what was so cool about it is because it was so local, it was such a big deal to the people in the area that knew about our movie, had heard that we were filming a movie in the area.
In a coal region that's so dilapidated and has no economy booming whatsoever, to bring some kind of light, especially in art form, to that community, I think it rose up.
The premiere was a nice experience. It was sort of a brief kind of conclusion to the entire nightmare of actually making the movie.
We had like a red carpet event and everybody got dressed up. It actually turned into like a way bigger event than I thought it would.
It was a nice turnout. It was surprising, the amount of people who came out to support it.
And I had seen all the people that were there, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm an amateur, and all these people are taking time out of their day to come see something that I was a part of.
I remember watching it on the screen and just thinking to myself, wow, this still needs a lot of work.
But it was cool. It was cool being on a red carpet and seeing so many people support the project, and that was cool. It was real cool.
This is for everyone going through all the troubles that they went through for me this entire time.
Yeah!
It is a really strange thing for me personally, knowing that the movie is now pretty much out of my hands and that I can't work on it anymore. Because I've been working on this thing, babying this thing for the past 6 years, just doing everything I can to make it right. Not necessarily perfect, but to make it right. The great thing about doing the movie was that we kind of all came to the realization that we were able to do it. You know, it took us a long time, it took us a couple years, cost us a couple grand, but we ultimately were able to make a movie, which not a lot of people can say that they had done.
Knowing, like, I was 7 years old and I watched this zombie movie that was made in Pittsburgh with no budget. 28 years later, here I am doing the same exact thing.
It's bittersweet. It really is. That production will never happen again.
It's kind of like a baby to me. It's silly and messy and makes a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, how do you not be proud of it? Because it got me to where I am.
If you want something bad enough, keep going for it. Keep trying to get it, even if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
A bunch of people get together and make something happen.
There was just so many issues that this group of people faced, and they just persevered.
What I take from the entire experience is that you have to keep going. When things get hard, you have to keep going. You have to keep fighting, and you need to finish what you started. Even though the movie is not the very best in terms of a movie, man, I'm proud that we got it done. I'm proud of what we have.